Thank you for joining us for this masterclass. So we've actually just finished recording it. So we're going to summarize in less than 60 seconds the topics you're going to hear about on this call today. So Andre, we're talking to people about stagnation and growth plateauing inside startups and the various different stages. Give us a snapshot of some of the topics people are going to hear about by listening to the full episode.
Yeah, I think worth listening to the whole episode is when, one, you realize that only 1% of startups raising money actually make it to 100 million and with crazy outcomes. And in the end, it's just a crazy day-to-day to be in. Two, that a lot of people just hit a wall, right, with their business. And there's different ways to understand what's happening and a lot of different themes which occur all the time. And three, that our personal growth and our personal struggles are something as commercial leaders everybody feels. And if we're leading the way through kindness and paying it forward, it's something which grows our own personal development, but everybody around us with us.
Absolutely love it. And you're going to hear about the different stages, the different 20% brackets that join up to make the Notion Capital scale up phases. You're also going to hear about our backstory. You're going to hear about how Andre started the Pavilion chapter in Holland by having a conversation with Sam Jacobs. There's so much gold, so enjoy the full episode. Hello and welcome to this special episode of Making Revenue Tick. I'm joined by a familiar face, our good friend, Andre. Andre, how are you doing?
Very great. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure. We obviously had you on the main podcast, the What Makes You Tick Tech Leaders Career Stories podcast, and we loved having you on so much. And I think one of my favorite things, and I was just talking to Tolu in our first ever face-to-face live podcast that we did a couple of weeks ago about key moments within the podcast. And one of the things we most appreciated is that people aren't just coming on to tell this kind of like bragging story about the incredible career they've had. People like you, these incredible leaders that we've managed to get onto our podcast, are really humble people, good, honest, humble people who prefer to build this wonderful career and then give as much of that information away. And I think you, more than most people, embody that philosophy. For people who don't already have the pleasure of knowing you, Andre, tell us a bit about who you are and the types of businesses you've made a career out of helping.
Oh, thanks so much for the kind words. I hope the blushing is not so easy to see.
Well done.
I originally came from Germany and I made my way through close to Frankfurt, Berlin, Warsaw, Hamburg, and now Amsterdam for the last 9 years of my life. And from school to uni and what I'm doing now, I think I'm an entrepreneur at heart and a builder and executor by trade. Built two businesses close to Berlin with a serial entrepreneur, and I really enjoyed that journey very early on, doing everything it takes to basically get off the ground. And then I think helped 3 different businesses at a significant part of their journey. In Hamburg, Dreamlines, it's in booking.com for cruises. So literally selling cruises, Norwegian line or Holland American line to America through the phone online. Here in Amsterdam, Hotel Champ, a hospitality MarTech company helping people to actually book on hotel websites, which is often not the easiest thing. And I know you were in Vietnam, and I'm not sure how often you booked actually straight on a website. And just lastly, Channable in their journey to enable e-commerce shops to widen their audiences online. List on marketplaces and actually expand the advertising channels. And all of these different businesses have all very different stories in their growth. And I think that's something we can talk about today.
Yeah, for sure. And we actually met through Pavilion. So we'll talk about all those experiences because you have this lived experience, which I think gives you a huge amount of credibility, knowledge, and relevance. But let's talk about Pavilion for a second. What's your role within Pavilion? And then if someone's listening to this and they don't yet know you and yet know Pavilion, what are some of the reasons why your community within Pavilion put you as someone that they would trust to listen to around advice for scaling their business?
It's I think, incredibly hard and incredibly simple question in a way, because you said it in the beginning. It's not so much about bragging what you've done, but just recognizing that it's freaking hard out there, right? Coming through your university and actually deciding what you want to do and what you make your life out. is really, really freaking difficult. And as you go into work life, it's not a straight path either, right? And I think everybody experiences that in a way. And when I came to the Netherlands, I didn't have any network around me, and all I did is working in the business, which hired me to come here. And after a certain amount of time, it felt pretty lonely being like in my first like experience as a SaaS leader, a commercial leader, and the CEO looking at you, having certain expectations to the growth of the business, but also to the vision and where they wanted to go. And the team sometimes being more or less connected to that, feeling successful, not successful, also looking at you, and you're feeling a little bit squeezed in between there. And I think why I hope people trust me in what I'm saying or are inspired when what Pavilion is doing is that we're bringing these people together around the table and share these experiences they have, learn from the experience we all gained, currently struggle with, or have struggled with, and basically cut a corner in sometimes the pains we feel or the tears we shed ourselves, you know. And back then I was really by myself, and I didn't feel good about myself and maybe how successful I am or what I'm doing. And I heard Sam Jacobs, the founder of Pavilion, speak on the podcast. There were 30 people in New York City. And I just gave him a call and asked him to join, and if I can build the local chapter here in the Netherlands, but also wider Europe. And with that, also Pavilion International was born, with London, Amsterdam, Toronto, and Boston being like the first like chapters of a very early community where people came together to learn from each other.
I love that. I've not asked you that question before. I really enjoyed hearing that answer.
Nice.
Tell us a bit more. Tell us a bit more about that. I love. By the way, why I love that. I'll tell you why I love that. Is because I really believe that your life and your career is a series of decisions around things that you did or didn't do, and it's like bets you took, decisions you made, risks that you took. The fact that you picked up the phone call. You picked up and spoke to Sam about his idea and then wanted to not only be part of it, but to help him to elevate that. It's the ultimate sign of an entrepreneur. It's like someone who wants to build within someone else's vision, but as part of it, you know, I absolutely love that story. How did that phone call go? Break that down for me.
It was so funny. So I started with another friend of mine locally here, just like, first of all, to bring people together, right? So in the Netherlands, we eat bitterballen and drink Heineken. So this is how we spend our evenings, just like spending time with each other. And when I got exposed to Sam, I didn't even think he would come back, right? So it's also quite a stretch. Why Europe and US? For me, there was a clear motivation because the US is way further in their understanding of SaaS. So it was already like 6-7 years ago, right? And they had an interesting thing I loved, which is called RevOps. So revenue operations is something I was always very passionate about. So I think this is how I made the connection. And he actually came back and we had a call, and he was weirdly too open to this idea, you know, that there was almost no convincing. There was no, hey, I have a business model, or hey, we need to internationalize the business. You do like none of that. We talked about the things we both experience. And the moment you come together on this, there's a certain trust, you know, there's a certain feeling of a peer. And like we didn't have any interviews or nothing. So like in that call, he said, let's do that. And then I basically just started that connective tissue with the US from here.
Absolutely love that story. And Pavilion's like 11,000 members worldwide now. So what does the chapter look like within Holland today?
Yes, so it's like the Pavilion brand, like the HQ is in New York, and there are around 50 local chapters. I think with everybody who did any kind of like online learning and so forth, it's like somewhat disconnected at some point. So like these local memberships are very, very important to the experience everybody has. And these chapters are from like Auckland to Hawaii. The Amsterdam pavilion is around 250 people.
Mm.
And I think it will not be crazy bigger, because for us, it's around shaping a clear peer group of people who can relate to each other, right?
Sure.
We have around like 120 executives. These are like VP level, head level, and up. And we have an associate community, which are amazing people younger in their career, which are managers, like to director level. And
Yeah.
both cater to these two different audiences with the idea, one, and this is where it started out, the executive level, we're all VP sales or marketing. We struggle with certain things and we want to create a network where we can learn from each other, but also through things like Pavilion University, which is a bit more like a structured learning program. And the associate side of things, and we have then also around 120, 130 of these members, is a clear dedication to helping the next generation of leaders come through the ranks.
Sure.
Because as we said, it is freaking hard. Like if you're a manager out there and you're managing a sales team or a marketing team or a CS team, ask yourself, what is your path to a VP role or to a C-level role? Is there somebody lining this out for you? Is there a clear development path? Is there programs out there which give you the education to it? Like, is this happening at the company you're at? Is this going like somewhere else? Like, it is freaking hard. So we're also here to help people really unfold their potential and their future growth.
Yeah, absolutely love that. I think that I discovered Pavilion through a client of mine, a good friend who I used to work with, who then became a client working over in the Barcelona chapter. I was like, Richard, you need to join these group of people, perfect for what you do. And it's been an absolute, I know the word game changer is overused, but I'm not just like a game changer in terms of here is the business results I've achieved, just the friendships that I've built and the conversations that I've had. And like you say, anyone that you speak to, you have these peer-to-peer relationships. It's just phenomenal. And everyone's connecting because we all have like the same kind of framework of experience, but from a completely different perspective, going through different parts of the journey. And so the ways that I've managed to help people and been helped by people has been phenomenal. So I love that people are doing that. And I love that there's people like you that are leading these chapters. The topic,
but like for you coming into this network, is for a lot of other people maybe like sitting in their day to day and struggling. Like, what made you that step outside of your comfort zone, outside of your I'm so busy, I really cannot do this extra. Like what made that click? Because I think that click is the most important thing which actually happens.
So I was already feeling quite isolated. So after being in a business for 12 years, being part of a growth journey from 50 to 450 people across 4 sites around the world, which I got a chance to grow from SDR through to director. So I saw that whole growth from many different angles. It was quite like, tunnel vision. We were just focused on being the best that we could be in the market. There wasn't really competition and just growing. But I never really had a network outside of the company. And then when I started this entrepreneurial journey to learn how to build a business by joining this amazing entrepreneur called Steve Bolton, I started to build up a network outside of that original business in different areas like e-commerce within London, specifically in terms of geography, and then started to foray into tech from a recruitment perspective. And I realized that there is a load of things I didn't know. I'd been out of first line sales leadership or second or third line sales leadership for about 2-3 years at this point. And I'm going, I need to keep my skills really sharp. There's people I would love to meet, and not just in terms of a transactional business relationship, but just kind of like to have a bit of a peer group around me. And I was really conscious, I suppose, driven by a fear of becoming irrelevant and also just wanting to be around people, because I'd made a career from being a supporter within a business, as a director of a larger organization, but still small enough that you were really involved in the vision and the strategy. I love being part of something bigger than myself. So the idea to start the business wasn't like, we're going to go and build this island and then, just try and be as successful as we can. It's like, we need to try and find amazing people that we can work with, find brilliant businesses to find brilliant people to work within, to create brilliant opportunities for their career that they love, rather than just placing people because it gives us a commission check, So I think the opportunity for me to not feel so isolated, meet a bunch of other people going through similar journeys, was enough really for me. And it wasn't like you have to invest into it. So there was like a
Yes.
financial decision. But I didn't really look at it from an ROI perspective. It was like the ROI I'm going to get from this is relationships. The R for me is the relationship piece. And I know that if you invest into relationships, then good things always happen. And I think my dad always taught me that you should go through life sowing lots of seeds and then watering those seeds. And most won't grow. And some will grow years from now when you never expected them to happen. And some will come straight away. But you should just go through life trying to add value, offer help, water those plants, and then just see what happens. So it gave me an opportunity to do that, where I think that in most companies and most people that I speak to, they're so focused on their own career, their own company's success, that they never look outside of it. And then suddenly when that ends, through being riffed, being made redundant, from being fired, maybe from just burning out or just wanting to leave, they go, whoa, I feel like I'm isolated and lost. And I think if you're part of something bigger, then you always have that kind of like family level protection that will see you through to the next thing that you're going to go and work on.
Oh, I love that security element, but only by recognizing that you cannot do it alone, and by paying it forward to others, being kind to others, it will
Yeah.
always come back in a way, but it's not a momentarily transactional thing which is happening. It's pure connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's specific problems, right, that you're helping businesses to solve. So I think that one thing that I'd love to talk about on this conversation with you, while we've got this chance to kind of speak in this like very one-to-one focused format that people can tap into and take some value from, is one of the pains that we discussed that businesses face. And it's not even just a pain, it's like a big seismic problem, that they feel stagnated in terms of their growth. Maybe you used the word, they've reached a bit of a plateau. And they've grown to a certain point and they're going, no matter what we try now, and we're trying lots of things and we're succeeding with some, we're failing with lots of others, we're just not seeming to break the back of this plateau that we've reached in terms of headcount or revenue or profit or whatever those look like. Tell us a bit about why this topic of stagnated growth and reaching plateaus of growth is one that's close to your heart.
Yeah. It's like, just as you are framing this, there's actually a really interesting point in here when you think about like stagnation, right? Normally when we build a business, like when I was in school, I didn't like school projects, so I didn't write anything, but I built a cafe. So now I can earn money next to school running a cafe. But I can only invest the money into that business if I earned it before. So if we talk about stagnating growth, I think we have to differentiate two different kinds of businesses, right? One, which is like homegrown, bootstrapped, and then if I stagnate, I may feel not successful or I struggle with growth and all the things connected to that. But maybe I can still pay the bills. I pay my team, like I have positive cash flow, right? On the other hand, and I think this is what most our environment looks like, or at least for myself in software as a service and recurring revenue businesses, is that stagnating growth normally means I'm not only stagnating my growth, but I'm going to hit a wall significantly in a very short amount of time because I'm running out of cash, and that's a true business risk, right? And risk for all the people I'm employing, I'm supporting. So that's quite interesting. I think building the processes and the foresight for any business to be successful and not hit a wall is what generally motivates me, because it creates jobs, it fosters innovation, it continues our drive on the vision we set out to achieve in a way, right? The same like as you just framed for yourself. And I think that's very interesting. And there's like different stages in that we can discuss in a sec. And there's like certain things happening around these different stages. People feel the stagnation, which we can also touch on.
Yeah. Okay. It makes a lot of sense. And I think that it's interesting from a leadership perspective. Let's say that someone from the chapter within Holland, or maybe even yourself, comes into one of these businesses and you're talking to a founder, it's very unlikely they're going, yeah, we're like, we've been growing really nicely. We think we're seeing potentially some stagnation going to happen. We'd love to talk to you while the sun is shining.
Yes.
It's like, like we're in the storm. We've been here for a while. We've lost a few people. It's really painful. We're quite scared. And like you say, if you're talking about, there's no one bought into that business, either from an employee point of view, joining this like startup that's going to change the world and disrupt it, wanting that business to stagnate. And no investor went, yeah, take my money, keep it for like 10 years. Stagnated growth is absolutely fine. So the expectation, not only from the people who are investing into the business and believe in the business, but also the people who are working in the business, breaks very fast. And that's an incredibly painful place to be for a founder. So let's just talk about some of the symptoms that we might be noticing here. So let's say that we're appealing now probably to executives and founders within startups, probably within B2B tech.
Yes.
What are some of the things that they're going to be seeing in their environment and experiencing that will make this a really relevant topic for them?
Yes. And it's also about like, how do you as an executive know like how the business looks like? Because a lot of like, this was my first mistake going into the first business I was working for. It's like, it was all great, it was all sun, it was all money was there. But in the end, that was all not correct. And I made a decision for my own life joining that business, and it didn't work out. So what we're going to talk about now is also about how can we help executives make the right decisions joining these businesses, right? I think, like, first of all, like, we have to a little bit understand like how do businesses actually grow, right? And how does this whole wonderful idea and wish of becoming a millionaire look like, right? Because everybody thinks, oh, I'm going to start up. Okay, they have investment, and now basically just a rocket ship, right? There's nothing which would hold us back from completely smashing it and becoming millionaires, right? That's sort of fine. The thing is that only 1%, so 1 out of 100 companies which raised already over $3 million actually makes that journey, right? So leaving everybody out who didn't raise, maybe these bootstrap businesses we talked about. So everybody who actually raises money, $3 million out of these, actually 1 of 100 make it. So I know it's a wonderful vision. I know it's a wonderful dream, but it like, these outcomes don't just happen to anyone, right?
Yeah.
That's maybe a little bit painful now to digest, but I think like I was always motivated by like these crazy growth journeys, but in reality, it's more about like the realistic outcome of every business, right? So and then you have like 5 different buckets, and these are also these different walls you may hit when you grow. 20% of all businesses like will never actually get going, right? So maybe there's a great idea. They collected these 3 million euros, but there's not a real product market fit. They cannot really sell the product. Like it doesn't really work. I think this is still low risk, very early. The founder is trying that. That's okay-ish, right? Then you have like another 20%, which is going like from 1 million in revenue to 3 million in revenue. So here you feel now, okay, you have actually product market fit. Customers like this stuff, right? And now the founder goes out there and actually acquires all of these first customers, or they have a different go-to-market motion, however this works. But here you might stall because now you're just N-1, you're one founder, you're running mostly the whole of the business, and you need to find other people who can do this with you and for you, right? So that's the first wall you might hit, that maybe you are amazing in telling the story, your vision, and finding customers to do that, but you're not able or not equipped, or it doesn't work to actually have a team go out there and tell that same story and that same vision, and have the same authority you have in telling that story to do that, right? So now you have already like 40% of all businesses already gone, right? And we didn't really make a big business yet. Like there's another 20%, so it's always like 20%. And this is data from Notion Capital. So just that you know that as well. So the next block is then like, you have this going, you're a founder, okay, now I hired rich, and he's an amazing guy. He's just smashing it out there, right? So we're making the next journey like from 3 to 10 million in revenue, and we found a channel which is working for us, right? Either we have like a good founder brand which creates demand for us. Maybe we're just amazing on dinners and events out there to drive that revenue. But we found something which works, and Rich, because he's so amazing, found another guy, Jake, and they're just smashing it, right? The thing is now, people are not scalable. So there is not 6 is Rich out there, another 10 Jakes, and maybe 5 more Andres, and which can run it the same way, So the next break point is that you have this realization that I cannot just hire all of these super amazing, outstanding people which are out there really, really early. I need to hire people which can just do a normal job at a normal wage, like with a general process they execute, which is repeatable, So maybe Rich and Jake are a little bit like in the wild, wild west, and they're going out there and they're getting all this business in. But you will then see that 1, we cannot find more. 2, we need like more people to actually make know your revenue targets, and we cannot find these, so we need to find different people. We learn that as much as I love Rich, but a big part of the customers he brought in is actually churning. So especially in recurring revenue businesses, this doesn't sit well, because the whole idea is to keep the business of a customer longer. And I don't have any processes to actually diagnose what is happening here. So now we're already 60% down, and to go over this stage is very difficult, right? 1, I have to realize that there's this whole idea of acquiring new customers and being in the market and telling the vision, but there's also this part of like keeping customers and making them happy and actually deliver impact over time. If you're acquiring a customer and you deliver like some roles to them, but these people either leave that business within 3 months, or you hired those people, but the customer is actually not so happy with the experience you delivered, Rich, then that's difficult to acquire business again from them, right? And in order to do that, we need to understand what's going on here and have a little bit of repeatable businesses in place, repeatable processes in place, which help us understand how we deliver impact to customers after we actually acquire them, and actually understand what customers are those which come through the funnel, which are also staying with us longer. So yeah, ideal customer profile, customer journey, these are the terms which we normally experience there.
Yeah. There's so many things.
I'm stopping there for a sec, because I think we had quite some content here already to give you the chance to come in.
Yeah, perfect. So let's definitely talk about the people side just for a minute, and then we can complete this incredible bit that you're on right now. So this whole founder-led sales transitioning to a professional sales management layer is the part of the market that I most enjoy. I think finding those entrepreneurial leaders to join those sorts of environments, and then the entrepreneurial salespeople who want to build something, there's a level of excitement that exists in that kind of environment and that kind of challenge that attracts, for me, the most interesting people that I could be talking to. But they're really hard to find, and you have to give away quite a bit, because the entrepreneurial leader that's going to come in and take over from you as a founder is going to want some skin in the game. So you've got to pay them well, probably give them a slice of the upside and the long-term benefit of the business growing, which you can't just continue to scale at that kind of rate. And they're also probably very, very entrepreneurial themselves. They probably could start their own business, but they would prefer to do it with a team in a different environment as part of someone else's vision. Maybe from life circumstances, maybe they just prefer to be in that kind of environment. But they often aren't the builders of systems and structures. So they're quite artistic in the way they do it. Like you said, Rich is just amazing. I blushed a little bit. But if I think about the example of the kind of first commercial leaders that come into businesses, they've got this incredible charisma. they've got this potentially incredible relationships they built over a number of years that they can bring a load of value into businesses, get customers excited, sell the vision of the company in the same way that the founder can, maybe even better. But then translating that, or wanting to spend the time to build the systems to go and translate that to again hire the next tranche of people, knowing that you can give less of the pie away, is a really complicated challenge. What do you see as some of those major things that make hiring that first professional commercial team really challenging for founders?
Yeah, this was actually like me like 8 years ago at Hotel Jam, because they had the first like pilot customers, and I came in to make that transition from like founder sales to like myself and the team, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, in these early days, you got some customers through the door, but you don't know why and how exactly, right? So you're still very early figuring this out, and that's why you need these entrepreneurial people to do that.
Yeah.
And then when you think, okay, we have something figured out, you're building out the team. So I hired SDRs to basically build demand in the market, primarily by educating hoteliers that they need to buy tech. Not a particular challenge I can recommend, but certainly interesting. And also AEs. So, and then like me as the leader is heavily involved, not only like in the hiring and bringing those people on board, but actually in the day to day, because we need to now figure out any kind of like story we're actually telling in a consistent way, which helps us understand why these customers join us, right? And what you just talked about this. When you go from this entrepreneurial kind to actually a team selling a solution, as long as you're asking yourself the question, dang, how does Rich do it? You don't have a repeatable process yet, right? So because it's still like this whole art of selling, and I think this is the responsibility of this first leader. He comes in, he's entrepreneurial enough to take over from the founder and carry the vision, but is still process oriented enough to shape whatever they see into something like a team can actually execute, right? Which you don't have to give a slice of the business to in that extent, or don't have to pay so highly, because otherwise the business will also not work.
Yeah, absolutely true. And if you are just hiring and trying to find those, incredibly talented people who can produce those moments of magic, you will probably have that kind of 80%, 20%, which is the 80% of your revenues coming from 20% of your people, or even 90-10, like the kind of channel problem. But you need to create an environment where people are going to be successful when they join you, because if you don't, very quickly that reputation will spread into the market that you're a place that people can't win. And it only takes a few Glassdoor reviews or RepView reviews for your business to be seen as someone who people might even avoid before you ever know that they've rejected you. And if you can create through systems and structure and environment ways that these people can come into a business, learn it, start to execute it, and then start to get some results, that will spread like wildfire too. And then they'll bring their friends, and then it'll be much easier to grow the business. How much of the problem?
I like wait 1 sec there. I really love your perspective on these things always, because it's such a different perspective I think anybody operating at a business normally takes, right? Of course, you come then from a recruiter perspective and think, why is that a business desirable to join for anyone, right? And there's then all the things you just said. The thing is that as a leader, I'm not here to actually make targets in the business, right? Like whatever the founder comes up with may be great, but this is not what creates what you just talked about. What creates what you talked about is me as a leader making my team successful, right? And there's a whole bunch of things connected to that. And I made mistakes early in my career where I had it exactly the other way around, where targets were completely and utterly unattainable, and the team felt incredibly unsuccessful. And me being squeezed then between the vision and the ambition of the founder and the team actually delivering still in their ambition and crazy execution what they could, but still not feeling it. That's my responsibility, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been there. I've been in the world of, missed forecasting, gap plans and reforecasting and rejected forecasts. It's a painful place to be, but it's not good for anyone. No one's enjoying that journey, CEO down to rep level and everyone in between. It's really, really messy. So Okay, fascinating. Fascinating topic. I'm really enjoying this conversation. Tell us more about, you were on a train of thought before I start to speak about the people. Tell us more about this stages.
Yeah, I just wanted to stop there because I think it was really good, like to have this extra conversation around like that transition moment which happens, right?
Hmm.
Like another transition which happens there is also, maybe you have 50, 60 people now. Suddenly, not everybody is talking to everybody anymore, right? Like there's this weird thing happening where before you just had a beer in the evening, everybody was there, and
Yeah.
now someone you're a little bit of a company, right?
Yeah.
Maybe some people don't want to stay for drinks every night, right? So there's a lot of stuff happening,
Yeah.
where like generally like documentation process, async stuff becomes way more important than it was before because the organizational knowledge is just like there all the time
Yeah.
at any given day.
Yeah.
But most of people then figured out like this kind of stuff, and they figured out a channel which works for them. But then the next 20%, so you're now already like over 10 million in revenue, which a lot of people actually don't get to. There's a bit more stuff coming. And in Europe, I think it's even more present than it may be in the US, because latest year is the time when we go international. So it's a whole different go-to-market motion, international. Actually finding true repeatability in the things we're doing. So not just writing down a process and then, everybody is like running this process, but what you just said around, we actually have a forecast and we need to like hit this forecast in a way that we have a clear understanding of what brings us from A to B to C, you know? And this takes, again, a little bit different kind of planning, of structure you have to build up, a little bit more of like data pieces you have to bring together, a stronger understanding of what actually does need A to B or does B lead to A, and what actually happens with all different stages of marketing, a sales process, and also with customers, right? And here it's really about understanding the impact deeply which customers have to then acquire more of them in a very, very repeatable motion. And that's that's freaking hard, right? Because like now my role, Andre, for example, at Actionable, when I joined, there were north of 15 million ARR already in 9 different markets. So now my role is, one, how can I run a system which is repeatable across sales, marketing, customer success, so that I know I will get enough pipeline in to close enough revenue to have the right customers, which also retain with me, so I don't lose so much in the back of it. And on the other hand, you have all this stuff going on in newer markets you're in, like Germany or the UK or Spain or Italy or France or US. So all this different kind of stuff where you still need to be in the entrepreneurial mindset. Because here, like just because I'm successful in the Netherlands, it's not any indication that you have a relevance in any of these other markets, right? It's born of your own need that you need to go international now because like you want to grow revenue more and you want to have more customers and you want to fulfill your vision.
Yeah.
Customers don't care. They want to find the best solution to the problem, right?
Yeah.
And that's an interesting piece. So, for example, at Channable, then I was having the German team under me for a certain amount of time. Later, the French and Italian team, and then I don't take a manager of managers position. I'm actually taking a team lead or like a direct seller position because I need to be in a lot of deals. I need to talk to different people in the market. I need to open doors, almost like a founder in that market, in order to then enable the team again to do their thing, what we just talked about, right?
Yeah, fascinating.
That's wild, and this is really like a stage I truly love, like because there's so much stuff happening.
So, and what are some of your favorite things about it then? Obviously, the complexity and the mental challenge is one side, but what else do you absolutely love about the challenges that exist at this growth phase?
Yeah. So we talked about RevOps, right? And even on my CV, I have like tech stack and then try me. So I don't need to list down like what I enjoy doing, but like this whole tech stack, big amounts of data, clear understanding of data flows, like it really interests me. And this is only working at bigger companies, right? Because otherwise you don't have this data. So this strategic mind game of, okay, mapping all this repeatability out is one which really interests me. But what motivates me and gives me energy every day is actually working with the team and with customers. So I want to be at this trade fair. I want to be out there to hear what's going on in the market. I want to know what does the customer feel when they're using the solution, and why are they coming back every day, and why do I enjoy it so much, right? This gives me the energy to do like also all the boring stuff, like the internal meetings and all this kind of stuff you have to do also at some stage of the company, right? But that's an awesome combination, which gives me a lot of energy every day. And then seeing the sellers crack that market and grow along the way and take different positions, and maybe growing from like an SDR to an head of success, or in another case, like one of my early people I hired grew from a CSM to head of marketing. So these are the things you want to see, and all these stories only get told into this different stage of businesses.
Fascinating. So in those examples of people that have been successful in those environments where you're creating structure from chaos and you're creating environments for them to be successful, what are some of those common traits that you've observed that add up to someone thriving in those sorts of environments?
I think a lot of people believe that the bigger the company is, the more hierarchical it is, right? So automatically, with me being in a VP position or in a C-level position, it puts me in a different light of everyone. What does it mean? It means people come back from a trade fair in Germany and maybe have a lot of interesting insights, but maybe I was very vocal about my own opinion, which is right and which is wrong, right? Which actually nobody should care about. But this is often how it is then, right? My manager said X, Y, Z. So I think the trait here is that from your early entrepreneurial time, where you were right because you were actually the closest to the market and you built that out, to now, it doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong. It is important that the decisions we make based on what the people bring back from the markets are right. I think this is the biggest change, right? So you have to be open to the feedback from the market, from the people who are actually closest to the customer, and help them make sense of what they're hearing. Because most of the time, the customer is not right in what you actually need to build in the tool, but are right in the pain they perceive, right? And this is what you as a business then resolve.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating because when you're talking about building this like, structure, repeatability, this RevOps mindset, building predictability, all those things make it better for customers, right? Because if you're gonna, you're gonna buy a solution from a company, let's say it's a SaaS solution, and then you get a really good experience, you recommend it to a few of your friends working in similar businesses, and they get a terrible experience, maybe from the sales process point of view, or the implementation point of view, or just the account management side. It's messy. If you start to get like different customer experiences based on the individuals involved within those teams, or maybe the product itself, then that becomes a ridiculously difficult thing to scale. And you can have the best, most motivated, wonderful leaders and salespeople in the world, but if they're getting complaints consistently from customers and those customers are churning, then that's a really horrible environment to be in. So one of the major benefits I see of applying this kind of methodology and the systems type thinking that you've been talking about is there's nothing better than being a person who's selling a solution or involved in a team of people selling a solution where you consistently get incredible feedback from clients. We love this. This changed our business. We can't live without it. Those are the things you want to hear, not we hated this, it broke. We would
This gives you the energy, right?
recommend it to our worst enemy. Why do you think that customer thinking is so important for businesses to get out of stagnation and plateaus?
Yeah. And I think this is literally now the last piece of it. So we have like 20% of companies left, which somehow make it between 30 and 100 million and maybe get acquired or have different options. And especially as a German, I can say that because process is important, but process for process sake will not get you anywhere, right? So these experiences you just framed are normally coming from people not thinking about what they're actually doing. So somebody told me this is the process and this is not the process, right? So we're spending 5 million a year on marketing budget to going to trade fairs. We're doing 100 trade fairs. We do stand, we do like some boogie woogie, and that's it, right? So that's the playbook. But the playbook doesn't work all the time, especially not as the outside changes, or as team changes, or as maybe the product changes. Like a process is nothing carved in stone. It's a living, breathing thing, right? But the struggle is that, of course, the bigger the company, like what do you want to do as an SDR in an 100-person sales team, right? Like, do I have I'm just running the process, right? So, and this is where it happens. So, yes, there's process. Yes, we try to be repeatable with the process we do. We have to be disciplined about the execution of this process, but freaking God, people, you're still out there having fun, right? So, and having fun means thinking critically about everything I do. So, for example, three examples. Trade fairs don't work anymore. I cannot like spend 80K on a trade fair booth and spend 2 days there with a full team of 10 people and then get almost no business out, right? But what if you think trade fair appearances in a different way? How can we create demand around the trade fair? All our customers are there. Okay, that's interesting. So why don't we run a dinner around this trade fair when anybody's in town anyways? So then we have 80% prospects there, we have 20% customers, and we can connect each other better. And maybe this is a new playbook now we can run because we got a lot of customers out of there, and we got a lot of raving fans out of there, right? We always try to approach a certain audience of ours through emailing and newsletters, right? But we don't see any return. How can we get, for example, for the channel businesses, agencies together in one spot to actually reach more people at the same time and have a good exchange with them? Why don't we run like a small game show as part of a trade fair? Suddenly we have 50 different agencies coming together, like playing Kahoot, like crazy people on the stand. What an atmosphere, and we're connected, right? Maybe this is a new process and playbook we can do for some time, right? So this whole actually having fun being out there, yes, we have to execute a process, but also questioning from time to time, why are we actually do this? And is it delivering the same quality still? Is a really fundamental element, which you need to do, especially when you're bigger, because everybody just thinks process, and actually nothing's moving anymore. That's the thing. Yeah.
I love that. I can feel the passion when you're talking.
Yes, because I love that stuff. And then when you see the team executing this, you know the level of energy which is out there. That's insane.
Oh, this is it. There's nothing worse than approaching business from a boring perspective, because we're all there's enough boring things that happen in businesses.
Yes.
Like the solving customer problems and building should not be part of it. What are there any kind of nuggets that you've got and gleaned from your experience at the earliest stages? So let's say we're talking now to someone at the kind of 3 to 10 million phase. What are some of the ways that you've experienced them being able to get out of plateaus and stagnation?
Yeah. The biggest reason for the plateaus is to not be close to the customer and only think about the scaling of the business, right? So I got money in from a VC. The VC has high expectations of me, right? So what is now the playbook? The playbook is I hire a lot of people. I scale. I want to triple, double, or whatever other kind of setup. I need additional products, I need additional markets, and I need to internationalize as early as possible. So now you have all of these different things on your table, and actually will not work out because 3 million is not a lot of revenue. You need to still be very, very close to your customers and grow the business as the business tells you that you can grow, right? So the moment I have figured out that a certain channel works for me, and I also understand that these customers actually stay a bit with me, then maybe I can hire more people into that to grow that business. But having then one person doing the Dutch market based on the inbound we get, and then suddenly opening Germany and the UK, and maybe later then, because seeing it doesn't work, hiring a whole bunch of people to like have more people doing that, it's just not working. And this is often what happens there. Too many people, too many channels, maybe too many different markets, not a clear understanding what works and what doesn't. And then everything goes a little bit wild and all over the place.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. We could definitely do another podcast on this one because I think there's so much content we can cover. But I think we need to wrap up from a time point of view now. So let's say someone's watching this and they're going, I'd love to have a conversation with Andre to really get into the nuts and bolts of my own specific circumstance. What's the best way for them to get hold of you?
Yes, I think I'm reasonably active on LinkedIn. So also like follow, subscribe, click. Possible. I think that's that's an awesome way to get in touch. And if you're like local here in Europe, come by for an Amsterdam executive dinner or one of our events. I think it's an amazing opportunity to get to know the community and other people who feel just the way you do every day.
What an offer. Cool. So I'll put a link into your LinkedIn profile in the show notes, Andre, but thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. Let's do another one soon.
Anytime. Love it.
Cheers.
Talk soon. Bye.